All right, in this video, I want to get into numbers. Not the book numbers in the scriptures, but actual numbers. And I'm going to start by actually showing you letters, which is going to be a little weird for you, I imagine. But I'm doing this because we're told to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, which means we need to understand how our enemy communicates. We got to understand his language of symbolism and the use of numbers. And this will help us see things that are going on around us. And this is why I don't rebuke those people who watch, the worldly movies and TV shows and focus on the media and the news events and the dates, and they look at that stuff because I think they're trying to figure that stuff out. I'm not saying that they get it right all the time, but I think they get onto something and they figure things out with these numbers. But I will say that this is something that is used to help you understand the serpent and to know what's going on the other side, which is something we're told to do. Right? We got to know our enemy. Right? You don't just ignore him. You pay attention to what's going on, right? And this is not something that you're going to use to understand God, to understand the scriptures, okay? What I'm going to bring up here is not going to help you understand, for example, the timing of the rapture in Bible prophecy, right? It's not going to help you understand the timing of God in any way like that, like a Jubilee cycle or anything like that. This is not going to apply to those things because from what I see, God does not use this, okay? And if you don't think I should be getting into this stuff or talking about this stuff, I guess this is where you should go about your day in life, because that's what I'm about to do. So, without further ado, let's do this here. I'm going to try to fit the alphabet on one line here. Okay. Now, why am I showing you letters if I want to talk about numbers? Well, because these are used interchangeably to be numbers, kind of like in Latin. In Latin, the numbers are actually the letters. But in here, it's a little bit different, and you can calculate this in two different ways, and I'm going to show you that right now. So what you would do is you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you repeat this, because you ultimately, in the end, you get the same numbers, and I'll explain in a second. So you start over, because ultimately the highest number is 9, because then you restart with a 1 and a 0, and you use the same numbers over and over, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you repeat. Right? But you can also do it as you might imagine, right? You go all the way to 26. So we'll do that as well, because this is going to help us to understand what we're looking at as well. And thank you for your patience with me drawing this out here. Probably should have spaced it out more, but I didn't know if I would fit it across. So the reason why this is the same thing, it doesn't matter which way you use, such as if you focus on this right here, is because you can use the number 26, right? But when you put 2 and 6 together, what do you get? 8. You come over here with the y, it is 25. But when you put 2 and 5 together, what do you get? 7. You come over here to the j here, which is a 10. 1 and 0 is what? 1. You got the k, 11. 1 and 1 is what? 2. So you see how it doesn't matter how you do this, because ultimately the numbers are and end up being the same. Right? So when you take something like an important number here, the 6's, fox. Fox is 6, 6, 6. Right? It's interesting, right? But then there's more to this. I'm going to do my best to get into this as in much detail as I can, just so you can pay attention and figure this thing out. I'm going to start with the O here. The O is a 6, but an O can be an O as in the letter O, or it can be a 0. So a 0 can represent an O, which can be a 6. So if somebody put something like 606, they could be hiding 666. Or they could put 060 and they're saying 666. Right? They could mix an F, a 0, an O, and an X together, and they're showing you 666 in different ways. Right? There's a bunch of different combinations you could do here. Right? Like, I'll just do an example here. You can do the XO thing, like hugs and kisses, and then throw a 6F and a 0, and you're just constantly putting 6's, right? And so you can see just from there, there's a lot of 666's around, but there's more. There's more to this. Now, with the W here, it equals 5, as you can see there, or with the 23. But this can also be used as a 6. And you may be saying, what? But first, look at where the W comes from. In Hebrew, you got Yod He Vav He for the name of God. Right? Yod He Vav He. Vav is a Hebrew letter. And sometimes they don't say Yahweh with a V. They say Yahweh with a W, because that Vav is used as a V or a W. And in German, it's not a double U, it's a double V. V. Wonderful. Right? And Vav in Hebrew is a 6. It's the 6th letter of their alphabet. So this can be used as a 6 and potentially a double 6. Right? But also in the letter, if you say it, double U, it is 2 U's. 2 U's is what? Since it's 3, 2 of them would be 6. Right? So when you have your website, which is www.666, right? And then you see this on the Monster Energy drink. It has the symbol for a Vav, which I'm kind of making it look like 7s, but it's like a little nail, right? They make it look like a claw mark of a beast, and the beast is what gives you the mark, right? 666. But wait, there's more. You can also do this with 8s. Right? It's another hidden thing. There's deeper things. And I think I'm going to wait on the 8s for a second. I'm going to actually talk about the B right here. Because the B equals 2. But when you put a B that's lowercase, they can use it because it looks like a 6. But when they do a capital B, it looks like a 13. Right? So they can use the B in different ways to look as different things. To be a 6 or a 13, depending what they want to do with it. But also it means 2, right? So potentially when they put a B, the B looks like a 6, but since it also is 2, it could mean 66. Right? But then capitalized, it can mean the B, it can be a 2, or it can mean the 13 as it looks like the 13. 13 is a number of rebellion. Right? We see over... Oh, my pen just died. Oh, that is unfortunate. I'll have to use my finger here, so it's going to be a little rough. The 13. And that's the number of rebellion, such as when Joseph was blessed, it was actually his 2 children that were blessed. So he ended up bringing in basically, they call them half tribes, but it's basically now 13 tribes. And since there was 13, one of them, Dan, ends up being a viper, being a rebel, and revolts as a traitor. Just like Judas would be the 13th if you count Jesus in with the other apostles. So the 13, there's this rebellion. It's, like today is the Friday the 13th. And Israel, just as far as I understood, attacked Iran last night. And as far as I understand, at the timing of their attack, it was on Friday the 13th, their time. So, interesting stuff there. But now about these 8s. And it sucks that I gotta do this with my finger here, but it is what it is. So you have an H. Somebody uses an H, you have an 8. And an 8 is just putting together 2 O's. Or they can be 2 zeros. Right? And we already know what that represents. It's the 15. 1 and 5 is 6. So an 8 can be 6, 6. So when you use something like H, O, H, O, ho, 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 like Satan clause, you're just giving people a bunch of 6s in there. Right? And the other one is Q, like QAnon. And Z, or Z, with the 8. So, since 8 could be a double 6, when you see someone say a phrase 86 it, which means to get rid of it, take it out. Like some people say 8647, which means the 47th president. I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying there's people who talk about that. And they're basically saying to this guy, right? But 86 would be 666, right? And that's kind of interesting because there's a pill that's an abortion pill, which is, are you for, as in asking you a question, are you for 86? Are you for 666? You take it and you terminate the child. Because the 666 has something to do with death. Right? You're damning your soul when you take this. So if you were to take something like Z8, you're saying 666. You're actually multiple, right? 6666. Right? You can do this with QF, FQ. Right? Right there you're saying 666. You make a mixture of H's, F's, O's, Q's, X's, and Z's, and you're actually putting the message there of 666. Also mixing in zeros, which you're just using as an O as well, right? So you got all these different ways to show 666, which would show your allegiance, right? So there's more that can get into this because of the symbolism of the letters. You know, kind of like an E is a 5, but they can also use the E to represent a 3 because of the way it's shaped, right? Or vice versa. You know how some people will spell something and they want to be a little bit different, so they spell home, they're like home, and instead of putting an E, they'll put a 3. And they might make the O an actual 0. They use those things in kind of interchangeably. Right? So if you're paying attention, you can see this as well. That, hey, they're putting this different messages here. Right? And, yeah. Also, there's another way to look at this as well. And that is such as understanding some other languages a little bit, such as Latin, for example, where V equals 5, right? And I equals 1, and I looks like a 1, right? Pretty similar, just a straight line, right? Some people use just a straight line to represent I and 1 too, right? Kind of like I did at A. All I did was a straight little line to represent 1, right? But I wanted to make a clear distinction between the two, so I wrote it like that. And we use this like in the NFL, football, the Super Bowl. They use Roman numerals to represent the number of the Super Bowl, right? So what I like to end with is an interesting thing. Kind of a rabbit hole for you to think about. And you may think, what does this have to do with anything? Why even bring this up? Well, because it has actually something to do with something. And I can talk about it later on, but I'm just going to leave it here, kind of a cliffhanger. And I'm going to change the color so that I can write over what I already put. So, a name here. And let me thicken this up. I don't know why it's not thicker. I'm going to try to thicken this up so you can see it better. And I wrote down Elvis. Elvis is a weird name, right? A very rare name. when you think Elvis, you only think of like one person, right? Elvis Presley. Well, El in the Hebrew means God. It doesn't have to be a capital G. It can be God or a lowercase God, right? VI in, like I was just showing you right here, in Latin actually means 6, right? And S makes it plural. So it's saying multiple 6s. So Elvis, you can see a name that means God's 6s. And it's not, that's why I said it can also be a lowercase g here, because we know whose God this is, right? It's the God of this world's 6s, right? And that's another thing here, is that where was I going? Kind of lost my train of thought there. Elvis. Even if we leave out the fact that L equals means God, if you have the EL and we look at the numbers we have here, E is 5, L is 12. You put that together, you got 17. 1 and 7 is what? 8. 8 can be the 2 O's or the 2 zeros, which means 6, 6, and then you have the Roman numeral 6, right? And then you have 666 with an S that can also be a representation of the serpent, a snake. So the serpent's 666. You see, like in this name, they've encoded 666 in different ways. And some of you may think this is way out there. And I get that. But this is how the enemy communicates right in front of our face without us even noticing. You know, like we're in a war, right? And when America was at war during World War II, and we were worried about the Japanese encoding our messages, we actually used Native Americans to be the code talkers. So they would the one that would take the message that we wanted to send to another place over the radio, but they would first put it into their language, and then in their language they would put it into a code. So they would say turtle would mean tank, but they would say turtle in their language. So they'd be talking about turtles in their language, and when they're talking about that, they're talking about tanks. So then when the Japanese were picking up on the radio and they're trying to decipher, they had to decipher a a different language. They have no idea what it is. So it allowed us to be able to communicate without them understanding. Right? In that same way, Satan is communicating with all his people through symbolism, coming from governments, coming from religions. Religions will put up a lot of these different symbolisms as well. And they'll use the movies, shows, news events, news stories, where they put in different symbolism, telling them different things. You can even see when they use the way they shake hands, the way they put their hands and fingers up like gang signs, right? They're always putting that OK sign, right? Where they have their index finger and their thumb coming together to make an O, and then they have the middle finger, the ring finger, and the pinky coming up. I'll try to darken this up. Right? They're always doing this, what they call it, the OK sign. Like everything's all okay. Well, obviously, if you follow the fingers, you got the middle finger coming down to create a 6. You got the ring finger coming down, looping around, creating a 6. So they're just putting that 666 up in your face. Right? They're doing this in different ways, constantly, all over the place. Right? And, yeah. That's another interesting thing there with like O and K. O is, as we saw, a 6. K is 11 or 2. That comes together to be what? 8. 2 zeros. The 2 zeros is 6 to 6. Right? So they're just all these 6s in this one little symbol. All over the place. Matter of fact, one more came to my mind. I was going to leave it off. I was going to be done, but then I realized there was a little bit more. I'm going to change the color up again to just right over what I'm doing here. But there's also, you got to pay attention to the 9s. Now, 9 is a very interesting number because when you add 9 to any other number, it equals the other number. For example, the first one we got here is 19. Well, 1 plus 9 is what? 10. 1 plus 0 is 1, right? So ultimately you get 1. 29. 29 equals what? 2 plus 9 is 11. 1 plus 1 in 11 is 2. So it comes to the number that you're added to. 79. Well, that just equals 7. 89. That just equals 8. If you have 9 and 9, like 99, 999, 9,999, well, then it just comes down to 9. Right? It just equals whatever number it's added to. It adds nothing to anything, which is very strange. It's interesting when it comes to this. But you also got to understand that these people, they like to flip things upside down. They like to turn them backwards because they like to twist the truth and mess it up. So sometimes they'll put 999, which is just 666, upside down and backwards. Right? Just something to take into consideration there. And then they can hide 999 in the number 18. Right? Where you may think, oh, the 8, that's 66 because of what I'm sharing here. But 18 is actually 6 plus 6 plus 6. Right? 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 6 is 18. So they hide that 6. I accidentally said they hide the 9s. I meant they hide the 6s in 999. They hide it in an 18. Right? And there's more. I'm sure there's more, and there's probably more you can see and everything. But I know a lot of people just look at this as crazy, weird stuff. And that's why I'm saying that this is not something that is used in Christianity. I want to make that clear. This is not something you use in Bible study, right? And this is something to understand a little bit better what the other side is doing. Right? So you understand what they're communicating to one another. You break their code, you can understand things a little bit better. Right? Kind of like people were talking about a 9/11 attack again, right? And a lot of people were going, well, if you flip that upside down, well, that might mean 6/11. So people were worried that something was going to happen on 6/11 this past month. And it was like, oh, yeah, okay, makes sense, right? I'm not saying that's a guarantee, and obviously it didn't happen, but it's something to take into consideration because that's how they work. Like, if you look at the event of 9/11, what really stuck out to me was a movie I liked that came out in 1998 called Long Kiss Goodnight with Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson. And the plot in the movie is the government is corrupt and they are plotting to blow up the World Trade Towers and blame it on the Muslims. And that is actually what happened, right? And then you can go back in some of the movies and shows and advertisements, and people show where they were putting 9/11 all over the place as if they were telling you when they were going to do it, right? So they communicate the message. So if you're paying attention, but it's kind of hard to figure it out because there was a movie that came out, I think it was on Netflix. I don't remember the name of the movie, but in the movie, it's in Ohio, and even in Palestine, Ohio, a train crashes, and there's this chemical that comes out, and it's a fog where everybody has to basically evacuate because the chemical pollutes the air and is deadly. And then it wasn't even a few months later, that's actually what happened in that same place. You may say, oh, coincidence. Okay. All right, we'll pretend. We'll pretend that's what happened. We'll just go back to sleep, right? Let's hit the snooze button and go back to sleep. But yeah, these are things to pay attention to. But if this racks your brain and all that, and I get why you wouldn't get into this stuff, and you think it's all wacky, it is. It's out there, and people are gonna think you're wacky for bringing this stuff up. But the symbolism is all over the place. But I do recommend paying attention to this Elvis. Is there's something to that. So yeah, that's the video, and this video is actually inspired by some strange events. As you may know, about a week ago now, so I put up a video about Aaron from God a Minute, where I was just saying, hey, I don't like the fact that he said we'll have to wait till next year, right? He's going to look at Shavuot next year, basically, and he's not going to look at other dates this year. I'm sure he's changed his mind, and he's going to end up looking at other dates this year. But him saying that, I was like, hey, that's discouraging, man. That's kind of prideful to think that you know that it's Shavuot without a doubt and that you can't be wrong. I was like, that lacks humility. And I wasn't intending to bash him or attack him. I wanted to be like, hey, let's look at other days this year. Okay, Shavuot passed. I'm not waiting to next year. I think this is the year. Let's look at other dates. And some people got worked up about that. That's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is I got a comment from someone, and they were saying that they were Aaron's dad. At first, I was like, is this really? Like, I don't know if you're just a random person claiming that for some reason. Because there's weirdos online, right? So I was like, all right, well, how you doing kind of thing. And he asked me if there's a way we could talk in private. And I told him, well, do you got like Facebook Messenger or MeWe or something? And he didn't respond. So I was kind of like, all right, I don't know if he went about his life or something, or it really wasn't his dad. I was like, all right. And then I got a friend request and a message from Luis there. And last night, he called me on the Facebook Messenger around 7 my time. And we almost talked until about 11, so about 4 hours we were chatting. And seems like a cool guy, a reasonable guy, level-headed guy, down-to-earth guy. We didn't talk too much about Aaron and those events. We did talk about it a little bit. And he was saying the only reason why he was talking to me is because I seemed like a reasonable guy. Like, I wasn't really actually bashing Aaron, and he could see that what I was bringing up was reasonable. And I wasn't talking about his private life, because, again, that's none of my business, and I know nothing about it. But he did want to address it. He didn't open up, and I didn't ask him questions because I didn't want him to open up about it, right? I didn't want to try to pressure him into giving me gossip and all that. I just wanted to hear him out, since he, I guess, wanted to say what he wanted to say, so I'd let him say what he wanted to say. And what ended up happening is we started talking about all kinds of different stuff. We started talking about numbers. And it went on for a while. And all these different connections to things going on. And it inspired me to do this, to share this kind of thing with you, that you may or may not think is out there and crazy. But there's these different things we got to pay attention to, because this is how the serpent communicates. Using codes and hidden messages. Because we're in a war, and he's trying to communicate to his different groups on their plans and what to do and when to do it, so they can all coordinate. But you see, we got to be, like, at times, code breakers to pay attention to what's going on here, so that we can warn what's about to happen. Not that there's some code for this weekend, the 14th, which is supposed to be Donald Trump's birthday and the 250th anniversary of the Army. And there's protests that want to go on. I would recommend not bothering with any of that, because if you do your little protest, I think January 6th was just a way to start making an excuse to use the government and military force against citizens. And now they're getting the left to go do the same thing, so that they can use the government now and everything they have set up to mark them and profile them. And I don't know, maybe do what they've been doing to some people and deport them to foreign prisons. All right, because he did say, hey, we've been going after illegals, but now it's to go after the homegrown. So I would not mess with that, even if you're completely against it. You're not going to benefit by protesting in any way whatsoever. You're just going to waste your time. And then use all this to justify the things that they do. Hopefully that's not what happens, but I'm just going to warn you about that. And there is a little bit of a code in there, because, let me see, let me change the color here again. Let's go with blue. On January 6th, right, you have 1/6/21. That was the date, right? January is the first month, the 6th day, and 2021. Well, tomorrow is 1,621 days from that day. I wonder if there's something with that. That's very interesting, right? So maybe they're communicating something there. I don't know. But that's weird. That's weird. So I would just back away from any of that if you had any plans. Even though I might not agree with you on your stance, I don't want to see you roughed up, locked up, put on some list, or even deported. Don't want that to happen. So just stay away from that, in my opinion. So with all that being said, you like the video, you like the other content I put out there, please take a moment to pray. Pray to our Heavenly Father that He keeps this ministry going and keeps all of us as born-again believers going until He comes and gets us. And just amen in Jesus' name to that should be good as gold. But if you want to help out some more, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Excuse me. Share the video, share the channel, interact in the comment section. These things help out a lot and would be greatly appreciated. And if you're a cheerful giver, there's 4 ways you can support financially in the info description box. If you so choose, you're willingly do it. And I want you to do it because you want to do it, not because I use some hypnotic thing here with the numbers right now to bring you into my cult to support this. Right? You do it just because you're like, you know what, I like this stuff, I want more of this, and other people to get it for free. I want to help. That would be greatly appreciated. And yeah. But if you think this is a cult, then just, why are you even watching this far into the video, man? And if that's the case, you don't have to donate. Yeah, go ahead, tell everybody not to. Whatever. Just like they don't have to listen to me, they don't have to listen to you either, right? The people got free will, right? And it is what it is. People are going to support what they support. And you just gotta let that happen. Like, I don't want people to support certain things with their time, energy, and money, but I believe in their free will to go do it. But some people don't seem to respect people's autonomy very much. But anyway, that is that. I don't know how I can make this a little weird and awkward at the end of the video. I kind of just got up. Actually, just coming to consciousness. So, I'm actually going to leave it as that. Appreciate you watching all the way through and sitting through all this, satanic devil stuff. Or I know some people think, it's going to be devil worshiping now and all this stuff. People are just weird, right? I don't know what to do about it other than, go about my life. But, yeah. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.